Kindling, where stories spark from the embers of Africa and dance their way into your heart. I'm Awe, your storyteller. Now, today's tale takes us to the Gambia, a small country in West Africa nestled along the Gambian River and surrounded by Senegal. Although it's the smallest mainland country in Africa, the Gambia is rich in culture, language, and storytelling traditions. Among its many peoples are the Wolof, whose tales blend humor, wisdom, and transformation. Now, our story today is about a king who wasn't quite what he seemed, and a village that sang his secret back into the light. This is the tale of the Donkey King. Once, long ago in the land of Jollof, the proud donkeys had a king. He was much loved because he was a kind and fair king. His name was Fari Mbam. But Fari Mbam, the king of the donkeys, was no ordinary donkey, for he was as curious as he was wise. Now, one morning, as the sun rose golden over the plains, Fari Mbam grew restless. He had grown weary of braying councils and hay feasts. He dreamed of something new sounds, new places, of walking amongst humans. And so he made up his mind and did what no donkey had ever dared to do before. With that, he stepped outside and he tucked in his ears. He tucked in his tail. He struck his hoof upon the earth 3 times, rack, 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 and poof! Suddenly, in a flash, Fari Mbam stood transformed. He was now tall, 2-footed, handsome, and cloaked in the form of a man. And so with that, Fari Mbam set off on a long journey, walking along the road like a nobleman. He passed through the town of Kaolack. He passed through the village of Nofan. He passed through the village of Nyoro, until at last he reached the village of Batihai. There, as he was walking along the street, he saw a beautiful young woman who smiled at him, and Fari Mbam, king or not, smiled back. Well, the two immediately fell in love, and soon they were married. And so, Fari Mbam stayed in his new home. He made a life amongst the Wolof people. Years passed. He had one son, and then another, until at last, eventually, there were 5 strong sons in total. With that, 15 years slipped by like water through a reed basket. Fari Mbam and his wife and his family lived a happy life. But back home in the land of Jollof, the donkey people began to whisper, "Where is our king? Why has he not returned? Has he forgotten us entirely?" And after all these years, they could wait no longer. And so the donkeys of Jollof gathered together in the square to form a plan. Finally, it was agreed amongst them. A group of warriors was selected to go in search of their lost king, Fari Mbam. The warriors gathered together, and just as they had seen their king do, they tucked in their ears, they tucked in their tails, they stomped their hooves upon the earth 3 times, and poof! Suddenly, they too had been transformed into men. Each donkey man now picked up a drum, and together they set off to find their vanished king, Fari Mbam. Now, as they made their way through the villages, they finally came across the village of Kaolak and set up in the marketplace with their drums, and they began to sing. Fari Mbam, Fari Mbam, where's the donkey? Fari Mbam, where's the donkey? Fari Mbam, Fari Mbam, where's the donkey? Fari Mbam, where's the donkey? Fari Mbam. Their voices were lively. Their drumming was fine, superb, the finest that had ever been heard. But soon, they lost themselves in the rhythm and in their memories of joy from where they came from. They raised their heads and their singing suddenly turned to braying. Fari Mbam, Fari Mbam, King of the donkeys, King of the donkeys, Fari Mbam, Fari Mbam, King of the donkeys, King of the donkeys, Wow. The crowd in the village was delighted. They gathered round. They'd never seen such energy, such spectacle, such fantastic music and drumming and dancing. One man finally stepped forward after listening carefully to the lyrics of the song. I know that name. There is a man from Batihai who goes by the name of Fari Mbam, but he won't thank you for calling him a donkey. When they heard this, the donkey warriors bowed their heads with grace and thanked the villagers. Peace be with you, peace be with you. And off they went on their way, drumming through the land. The same again as they went through the village of Ndofan, and they passed through the village of Nyoro, always drumming in the square and losing themselves in the singing and braying to the delight of the villagers. Now, everywhere they went, people said the same thing. Yes, Batihai. There is a man there named Fari Mbam. We know him. He's married, has 5 sons, but he won't thank you for calling him a donkey. Well, by the time they finally reached Batihai, the donkey people were breathless with joy and they simply couldn't hold back any longer. They beat their drums as loud as they could and cried out in joy, Fari Mbam, meow meow, Fari Mbam, meow meow, King of the donkeys, meow meow, King of the donkeys, meow meow, Fari Mbam, Fari Mbam, Fari Mbam, Fari Mbam, King of the donkeys, meow meow, King of the donkeys, meow meow. Now in his hut, in his house, Fari Mbam listened and heard, my people, they have come for me. He rushed towards the door, but just then his wife caught his arm. No, please, don't go to them. If you go, you may not return and I will be left alone. But it was already too late. Fari's feet were tingling, his ears were twitching. I cannot resist it, he cried, and before she could stop him any further, he was out of the door. Here I come, Fari Mbam, here I come, Fari Mbam, here I come, Fari Mbam. He stamped the ground, rick, and his ears popped out. He stamped the ground, rick, and his tail unfurled. He stamped the ground, rick, and finally, he was transformed once more into his original form. He had returned to being a donkey. The donkey people had their king, and so they sang even louder in joy. Fari Mbam, Fari Mbam, Fari Mbam, meow meow, King of the donkeys, meow meow, King of the donkeys, meow meow. Well, inside the house, the 5 sons suddenly stirred now. Father's people have come. We must go to them and be with our father. Well, the poor mother tried to block the door again. No, please don't go. What will be left for me? If you go, I will be all alone. But, of course, it was too late. The sons were twitching. Their hands were tingling, their bones remembering something lost from long ago. They too burst outside and joined in the singing and dancing. Fari Mbam, meow meow, Fari Mbam, meow meow, King of the donkeys, meow meow, King of the donkeys, meow meow, Fari Mbam, meow meow, Fari Mbam, meow meow, King of the donkeys, meow meow, King of the donkeys, meow meow. And as the sons danced, they too beat their feet on the ground. Ears popped out of their heads, tails popped out from behind, and they were transformed into donkeys. And all together, the donkey people finally at last had their king, and beside him his 5 proud sons. Well, they sang and they danced with such joy to finally be reunited. The donkeys of Jollof had their king once more, and as they paraded back home to their very land of Jollof, they sang through every town. Fari Mbam, nyam nyam, Fari Mbam, nyam nyam, king of the donkeys, nyam nyam, king of the donkeys, nyam nyam, Fari Mbam, ha-dee-ah, Fari Mbam, ha-dee-ah, king of the donkeys, ha-dee-ah, king of the donkeys, ha-dee-ah. Well, the Wolof people say, be careful who you marry. Don't ever wed a stranger. He might turn out to be a donkey. And that is where the story ended. And so, Fari Mbam returned to the life he had once left behind, and his sons followed behind him. And when the Wolof people say, be careful who you marry, a stranger may hide more than a secret, and a king may not always be what it seems. It's a warning, of course, but it's also a reminder that secrets have a way of rising to the surface, especially when the drums of memory call them home. Now, some say that this is a lesson in identity, that you can't run from who you truly are. Others, of course, say it's a tale of belonging, that even in a new place, the call of your origins echoes loudest. So whether you see it as a fable about love, loyalty, or even the truth behind appearances, remember this: what we hide may one day come dancing back. Well, if you've enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more stories. And of course, keep the fire burning.